Huntsville, Alabama, the Rocket City, home to NASA Marshall Space Flight Center, developer of NASA's Saturn V rocket, designed in the 1960s to fly 3 Apollo astronauts to the moon. You may be familiar with the Saturn's F-1 engines that were developed in Huntsville, but did you know that the computer systems for guiding the launch vehicle were invented here too? This system, called the Instrument Unit, contained 57 components for different functions during the Saturn's launch, like computation, guidance, stage separation, and more. But why did Huntsville become a place of rocket invention in the first place? Before it was the Rocket City, Huntsville was known as the watercress capital of the world, a small agricultural town of 16,000 with fertile red soil and easy access to the Tennessee River. By World War II, it became home to a 50,000-acre munitions depot called Redstone Arsenal. When the mounting Cold War of the 1950s spurred the Army to pour federal resources into a new intercontinental ballistic missile program, it chose Huntsville's arsenal. With ample space for a test range, proximity to the Tennessee River for shipping, cooperative city and state leaders, and a regional technically trained workforce, it became the home of the Army Ballistic Missile Agency. It was here that Dr. Wernher von Braun and his team of 120 fellow German rocket scientists relocated from White Sands, New Mexico, where they had been testing rockets based on the German V-2 missile. And it was in Huntsville at the ABMA where Dr. von Braun and his team would develop the transformative work leading up to space vehicles. Brooks Moore, a native Alabamian who would later lead the Instrument Unit team as the first American director of the Astronautics Lab at Marshall Space Flight Center, remembers joining the ABMA.
It was called the Guided Missile Development Division in the early days. We were working for the Army. However, there was already speculation going on as how we might evolve the missile program into space. And that was, of course, Dr. von Braun's, that was his goal all along. And in fact, the week I arrived here was the week he wrote his famous Collier report, where he showed the space station, I think it was, on the front page of Collier's magazine. So we were beginning to think in terms of space.
This team of German and American engineers made up the basis of the newly formed NASA Marshall Space Flight Center in 1960. Using what they learned from early missile and rocket work, they developed a new guidance concept in the Saturn program, as explained by Moore.
It was a massive job, but we had a lot of very capable people, and so you just focused on each of the problem areas and worked it out, and then integrated the whole thing together. And even in the IU concept, now that we didn't jump directly to the instrument unit that was built by IBM. You probably are aware that we had evolved the concept of an instrument unit from the old concept where we used canisters. We used pressurized canisters in the missile systems to put the components in.
But Marshall's engineers didn't do it alone. There were more than 62 contractors on the instrument unit, as explained by Moore.
And we actually worked amazingly well as a team. One thing, Dr. von Braun tended to penetrate down to the lowest levels as far as his interfacing with employees, and he had these huge meetings where you would have not only just the 8 key laboratory directors that reported to him. We worked very closely together, no barriers, and we faced up to the fact that new technology was required, and therefore where there was a need for it, we didn't shy away from it. We just tried to find the best team and the best contractor to help us.
With ready federal resources to recruit a much-needed NASA and contracting workforce, Huntsville's population swelled from 16,000 in 1950 to 140,000 in 1970. As talented engineers and their families relocated to Huntsville from across the nation, the success of space and defense programs enabled Huntsville to keep many of the personnel who worked here during the 50s and 60s, many of whom spun off their own successful commercial businesses that continue to make Huntsville, Alabama, a place of invention today.